Folks, I have created a formative assessment system inside of Google Sheets. Let's take a look at what it does. The first sheet is this info sheet. It basically is telling you about the different sheets that are in here, how to use it. It does talk about how you need to paste a Google Drive URL here, and this regex extract gives you the ID of that folder, which is used in a script to back up information as a PDF. So, and here I define the different formulas or different scripts that this sheet is using. The sheet has a utilities menu with all of these different functions that do all these different things. We'll go over them. Let's start with the unit planner. The unit planner lets you create your unit questions, and remember, this is formative assessment, so this is just a way to create some questions. And what I might be doing here is deciding to use my standards menu, and this script will open a sidebar with a list of a lot of the standards, maybe not all, but most of the standards. And so it pops open, and let's say we're looking at social science. Here I'm at this place, and maybe this is, maybe this is fourth grade, and I'm not sure what these standards are. But if I double click, here we go, and it writes in that standard. Let me go ahead and text wrap this. So it writes in the standard. That may not be the right standard. I think one thing I might do to clean this up is do a vertical alignment. So anyway, you'd go through here, and if you know what these standards are, which as a teacher you probably do, here we go, and here's another one, a standard here, and so forth. And so let's go ahead and do this. So you would choose your standards and you build your unit. So that's the standards menu, lets you put your standards in as you're building your lessons. The roster is your list of students, and as we set this up and take tests, we will get a list here of the total number correct, the scores, and it'll build a chart for us as we go. The archive is a way to back the roster up to this sheet, which is our archive sheet. The summary sheet will take the data that we are collecting from our unit tests, and we would collect our unit tests, and here we have this particular column needs to be hidden. And this is the unit summary. The summary takes the data that we collect here when the students take the test and backs it up here so that we can see the questions and the data. So let's take a look, and you can see I've already had the students take the Unit 1 test. Let me show you what happens if I back that up to my summary. So if I'm on the Unit 1 summary tab and I back up summary, notice it tells you be sure to be on the summary tab, and it runs that script and it's done. And let's come over and look at the summary, and sure enough, I have a list of how the students did. I've got some conditional formatting in there, but I can see how the students did on that test, and now I've got a record of that. When we go through and fill out a new unit, I will show you how this will work to back this up and how it saves. When you look at this, you'll see that right now these are numbers. And so now that I've backed this up, my unit summary, I would save this. But let's show how we would create a new unit. So I've got a new unit that I've planned here. It's an American history unit. And I would go ahead and duplicate Unit 1, and I'm just going to rename it to Unit 2. Then I'm going to take my Unit 1 summary. I think I'll duplicate that, and I'm going to call this Unit 2 summary. So I have a Unit 1 and a Unit 2 summary. Now my Unit 2, I want to actually put the correct questions in there, so I can just come here. I've written the questions. I can copy those, Unit 2, and I'm just going to replace these questions that were in here with these questions. And then I have to put in the correct answer here. So I got to unhide this column for this purpose here and come back to my unit planner. And here's my questions, copy them, come back to unit 2 and put in the correct answers. Great. Now I'll want to go ahead and hide that. I don't want the students to be able to see this, so hide columns D and E. Now the next step then, I have a roster. I got 14 students. I can simply, at this point, make practice sheets. It prompts you which template do you want to use? Well, I want to use the Unit 2 template. And what's happening now is I am creating a new test for each student. And as you can see, as this runs, it takes it a few seconds to create each sheet. And that's because as each sheet is created, it's locking all of the cells so that the students can only edit in column C. They can't change questions, they can't open up the hidden answer columns and so forth. So the students can only view and edit in their own sheet there. So, it takes it a minute. I have 14 students. You can see each time a new student comes in, there's Kipton, new sheet, there's Luke, and let's give it just a few more seconds. We have about 3 or 4 more students to create. And as you can see, this is taking maybe just a few minutes or less than a minute to create 14 students. So there's Zach, and I know he's the last one. And when that finishes, I'm back here to my roster and my archive. So now I'm ready to have the students take the test. So one of the things that I have, I've got all these units and things. So I'm going to run these scripts right now, and I'm going to hide all the units. And I'm also going to go ahead and hide the info archive summary. So now we're ready to have the students take the test. We have Avery, Ainsley, Cam, Carter, and so forth. And now what would happen is if Ainsley starts answering the questions, what was the first American state? This is Delaware, so she's got to type that in correctly. And let's go over to the roster and notice, yes, Ainsley has one correct answer for a score right now of 10%. Now, as the teacher, what I might want to do is show my Unit 2 summary. And notice one thing we hadn't finished yet. My Unit 2 summary is a copy of the Unit 1 summary. And what I need to do now then is run my restore formulas from summary. So I'm on my Unit 2 summary. I've got to restore the formulas. And when I do that, there we go. So now notice these are formulas, the indirect formulas, pulling that in. So right now, in real time, as the students, and I might go ahead and drag this back over here. So here's my roster, I can see that. Here's my unit summary, I can see that. Let's come over to Cam, let's answer a question. Let's Delaware, and notice if we spelled that incorrectly, let's just show you. If we go to the unit summary, Cam's got one right, but if Cam had misspelled that, so spelling would be important. And notice then if I come over to Unit 2 Summary, Cam has that incorrect. So I could go ahead and change that. So I'm going to pause for a moment and fill out a few of these tests just to see how this might work as you finished this up. But notice in real time, what's great about this is that the teacher can, in real time, watch the students take the test. So just to save some time, I've gone ahead and filled out all the students' tests. They're doing really well today, by the way. They got all the answers right because I just pasted all the correct answers. So let's take a look at the unit summary. And yay, wow, all the students got everything correct. Awesome. Let's take a look at the roster. Everybody's got all the questions correct. Perfect. Well, now that I'm done with that, I want to go ahead and I want to back up the summary. So what I want to do is back up the roster. That's this one here. We're going to back it up. It's going to back it up to the archive. So let's back up the roster. And then let's take a look. Let's show my info, archive, and summary. And let's take a look at the archive. Oh, great. So I have a backup of this roster. Perfect. It's all backed up. And let's take a look at my summary. I have my Unit 1 summary I'd already backed up, but let's go to my Unit 2 summary. here's how they did. I better back that up. I want to back up the summary. Let's take a look at the summary. Sure enough, there we go. I have a backup now of all of the questions and the students and how they did on each question. So I got that backed up. I've got my roster backed up. So I could at this point, I want to show you this feature. So right now these are formulas, and if these sheets were deleted, this would all stop working because the formulas wouldn't work because they're an indirect formula, and the sheet would be gone. So what we do is when we run this, we're done now, right? We've backed up the roster. That's to the archive. We've backed up the Unit 2 summary. We've got that backed up here. So I'm going to come here to the Unit 2 summary. I'm going to go to Utilities, and I'm going to delete the tests because they're done. We're finished with that. Delete tests. And notice the first thing that happened as these tests are all being deleted, they're gone now. But notice my Unit 2 summary is kept intact because the first thing that happened before it started deleting the tests was it changed the formula to values only. So now I can come in here and I can show all my summaries. So here's my here's my Unit 2 summary, here's my Unit 1 summary, here's my backup of the summaries, here's my archive of this test we just took, and notice the roster is now blank, but we had backed that up. Actually, one thing that I should have done, and let me just quickly undo this and come back. One thing I didn't do was print the PDF. Let me do that real quick. So I had forgotten to do this last step here. If you wanted to, you could back up save the scores as a PDF. But before you do that, what you want to do is hide everything because you don't want all these extra sheets on here. So let's hide our info, archive, and summary. Let's hide our units, and in this case, let's even hide all of our summaries. So what I'm looking at right now is just my roster and my students. Then I can come to Utilities, save scores as PDF. And what's happening there is we are backing that up, and that's finished. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So in my Google Drive, in the folder that I had said to save this, and notice, just to show you, this is the drive ID. This one starts with a 1, ends in an HG. If we were to come back here, and now I can show info archive summary, come to my info page, and notice this is the folder ID, and this is the folder ID where I saved that. This is what we just saved as a PDF. So it's this chart and the scores that the students got, and it's every student's test, so that the students, if you needed to, you could have a printed copy of how the students did on the test. So that's the function that we have here of the save the units. So let's come back and check something here. I need to show my summaries because I want to make sure my Unit 2 summary, notice this is still formulas. If I'm on this sheet, and now I can come ahead and delete the tests, that's going to switch that back and save it as values only. Here's my summary template. And notice this one is only here to restore the formulas if you ever need it. Notice this is what happens when there's no sheets to reference. You get these errors. We can go ahead and hide that sheet. We don't really use that, but it's there as a backup if need be. And then I could come in through here. I could hide my info archive summary, and I could hide all of my summaries. And now I'm back to where we started. I just have a blank roster, but I have the tests were given, and we have backup information for all of them. Hope you find this useful. You can make a copy of it if you're interested.